Document, Part 1 of the story. Alex Carter woke up to the sound of rustling leaves and distant bird calls. His head throbbed, and his body felt stiff, as if he'd been lying on the hard ground for hours. Slowly he opened his eyes and squinted. Against the bright sunlight filtering through the thick canopy above him, he was in a jungle, but not one he recognized. The air smelled different, trucher, heavier, like nothing he had ever experienced before. Sitting up, Alex looked around. Towering trees surrounded him, their trunks covered in moss and vines. Strange plants with vivid colors grew everywhere, some of them moving slightly as though alive. A chill ran down his spine. This wasn't just any forest, it was alien, unfamiliar, and dangerous. But how did he get here? He tried to remember, piecing together fragments of memories. There was a building, sterile and white, filled with people in lab coats. Someone had offered him money, an insane amount of it, to participate in what they called a survival challenge. That's what they told him anyway. Now, looking at the strange world around him, Alex wasn't so sure anymore. A sharp noise snapped him out of his thoughts. Something large moved nearby, crashing through the underbrush. Alex froze, his heart pounding. Whatever it was, it was getting closer. Without thinking, he grabbed a fallen branch and held it like a weapon. A leaf shook violently just a few feet away, and then silence. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, slowly, a creature emerged from the shadows. It was unlike anything Alex had ever seen. Standing nearly 8 feet tall, its body was covered in dark, scaly skin that shimmered faintly in the light. Its long arms ended in clawed hands, and its eyes glowed in eerie yellow. The creature paused, sniffing the air, its head tilting slightly. As if curious about the human standing before it, Alex tightened his grip on the branch, trying to steady his breathing. He knew running would be useless. This thing was faster than him. All he could do was wait. The predator took a step forward, its claws scraping against the ground. Alex swung the branch wildly, shouting as loud as he could. The sudden movement startled the creature, making it recoil. Seizing the opportunity, Alex turned and sprinted toward the nearest tree. Didn't look back. He couldn't afford to. Reaching the base of the massive trunk, he scrambled upward, using every ounce of strength to climb higher and higher. When he finally stopped, perched precariously on a thick branch, he glanced down. The creature stood below, staring up at him with those glowing eyes. It growled low, almost like a warning, before pacing back and forth. Alex clung to the tree, his muscles trembling from the effort. He realized now that this wasn't some ordinary survival test. These creatures were real, deadly, and they weren't supposed to exist not on Earth anyway. Whoever had sent him here hadn't been honest about what he was getting into. Hours passed. Or maybe it was only minutes. It was hard to tell. Eventually, the creature lost interest and wandered off, disappearing into the dense foliage. Alex waited a while longer before carefully climbing down. His legs wobbled when he hit the ground, but he forced himself to stay focused. He needed water, food, and shelter if he wanted to survive. And most importantly, he needed answers. As he walked, Alex noticed something ate a series of deep gouges carved into the bark of a nearby tree. They looked deliberate, not random damage caused by animals. Someone or something had made these marks. Was he truly alone out here? Or were there others like him, dropped into this nightmare without warning? Far away, in a sleek high-tech facility, Rachel Dawson sat in front of a wall of monitors. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard as she watched footage of Alex's encounter with the predator. She winced when he swung the branch, her stomach twisting with guilt. She had signed off on this project, convinced it was necessary for the greater good. But seeing the fear in Alex's eyes made her question everything. "He's holding up better than expected," said Daniel Brooks, her colleague, leaning casually against the desk. His tone was calm, almost bored, as if discussing someone playing a video game rather than fighting for their life. "Better than expected?" Rachel shot back, her voice sharper than she intended. "He's terrified, Daniel. That thing could have killed him." Daniel shrugged. "That's the point. We need to see how humans react under extreme conditions. If we're going to prepare, For what's coming, we need real data. Rachel frowned. She knew what what's coming meant. For years, rumors had circulated about extraterrestrial threats lurking beyond Earth's borders. Some believed humanity wasn't ready to face them. Others argued that adapting was the only way to ensure survival. The collective, the organization funding this experiment, fell firmly in the latter camp. But Rachel couldn't shake the feeling that they were crossing a line. On the screen, Alex continued moving through the jungle, unaware of the eyes watching his every move. Rachel sighed, rubbing her temples. No matter how many times she told herself, this was for the future of humanity. It didn't make the weight on her shoulders feel any lighter. Alex stumbled upon a small stream later that afternoon. He knelt beside it, cupping water in his hands, and drinking greedily. Cool liquid refreshed him, but it also reminded him of how vulnerable he was. Out here, even basic necessities like clean water came with risks. Still, he couldn't afford to dwell on it. Survival meant staying alert, staying smart as dusk approached. Alex found a hollowed-out tree trunk and decided to use it as temporary shelter. He gathered dry leaves and branches, fashioning a crude bed inside. Exhausted, he lay down, listening to the sounds of the jungle settling into nighttime rhythms. Somewhere in the distance, a low roar echoed through the trees. It sent shivers down his spine, but he forced himself to close his eyes. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new dangers. But for now, all Alex could do was rest and hope he lived to see another sunrise. Document. Part 2 of the story the next morning. Alex woke to the sound of chirping birds and the faint rustling of leaves. The jungle was alive with noise, but it felt different now, less mysterious, more menacing. Every snap of a twig or rustle in the bushes made him tense, his hand instinctively reaching for the branch he'd been using as a makeshift weapon. He knew the predators were out there, watching. Waiting after stretching his stiff muscles, Alex crawled out of the hollowed-out tree trunk and scanned his surroundings. The stream he'd found the day before was still nearby, glistening under the early sunlight. He decided to refill his makeshift water container, largely folded into a cup, shape and take a moment to think about his next move. Food was becoming a problem. He hadn't eaten since arriving here, and hunger gnawed at his stomach like a persistent ache as he bent down to scoop up more water. Something caught his set of tracks pressed deep into the muddy bank. They were enormous, far too big to belong to any ordinary animal. Alex's heart sank. The predator he'd encountered yesterday had been here, drinking from the same stream, and judging by the freshness of the prints, it wasn't long ago. He backed away slowly, careful not to make any sudden movements. The jungle seemed quieter now, as if holding its breath. Alex moved cautiously along the edge of the stream, keeping an eye out for danger. That's when he saw it, the creature itself, standing near a cluster of tall ferns about 50 yards away. It was crouched low, tearing into the carcass of some smaller animal with its sharp claws. Blood dripped from its maw as it fed completely. Focused on its meal, Alex froze, his body locked in place. His mind raced. If he ran, the predator would hear him. If he stayed, it might catch his scent. Either way, he was in trouble. But then he noticed something else, a tree with low-hanging branches just a few steps behind him. Quietly, he shifted his weight and began inching toward it. Each step felt like an eternity, his boots sinking slightly into the soft earth. Finally, he reached the base of the tree and started climbing, pulling himself upward as quickly and silently as possible. Once he was high enough to feel safe, Alex allowed himself to breathe again. From his perch, he watched the predator finish its meal and stand up, sniffing the air. Its glowing yellow eyes scanned the area, pausing briefly in his direction. For a terrifying moment, Alex thought it had spotted him. But then it turned and lumbered off, disappearing into the dense foliage. Back at the observation facility, Rachel Dawson leaned closer to her monitor, her brow furrowed with concern. She had been watching Alex's encounter with the predator, her fingers gripping the edge of her desk so tightly that her knuckles turned white. "He's lucky," she muttered under her breath, though no one else was in the room to hear her. Daniel Brooks walked in moments later, carrying a tablet filled with data. "Lucky? I'd say he's resourceful," Daniel said, glancing at the screen. Most people would have panicked and run straight into the predator's jaws. Not him. Rachel shot him a glare. Resourceful doesn't mean prepared. Did you? See how close that thing came to catching him? One wrong move, and he'd be dead. Daniel shrugged, unfazed. That's why we're running this experiment, to see who can adapt and who can't. Besides, Alex isn't our only subject. There are others out there facing the same challenges. Some won't make it, that's the nature of survival. Rachel clenched her jaw, biting back a retort. She wanted to argue, to tell Daniel that treating human lives like test subjects was wrong, but she knew it wouldn't change anything. Instead, she turned her attention back to the monitors, where Alex was now descending from the tree. He looked exhausted, his face pale and streaked with dirt. But there was determination in his eyes, a quiet resolve that surprised even Rachel. He's smarter than I thought, she admitted reluctantly. But intelligence alone won't save him out there. By midday, Alex had ventured deeper into the jungle, following the stream in hopes of finding food or shelter. Hunger was starting to cloud his judgment, making each step feel heavier than the last. Just as he was beginning to lose hope, he stumbled upon something unexpected, a clearing dotted with strange plants, bearing bright red fruit. The sight made his mouth water. But caution kept him rooted in place. These fruits could be poisonous, or worse, they could attract more predators. Still, desperation outweighed fear. After inspecting the plants carefully, Alex plucked one of the fruits and examined it. It smelled sweet, almost inviting. Taking a small bite, he waited anxiously for any signs of illness. When none came, he devoured the rest, savoring the burst of flavor, feeling slightly better. Alex continued exploring the clearing. That's when he noticed the markings carved into the trunks of several trees. Unlike the claw marks he'd seen earlier, these were deliberate, forming patterns that resembled symbols. Someone or something had been here before him. Curiosity tugged at him, urging him to investigate further. Following the trail of markings, Alex discovered a narrow path leading away from the clearing. It was overgrown and barely visible, but it looked intentional. Whoever had made it clearly knew the jungle well. As he followed the path, Alex's mind buzzed with questions. Was he truly alone in this place? Or were there others like him, dropped into this nightmare without warning? The thought gave him a flicker of hope, but also a pang of unease. If there were others, what kind of condition? Would they be in? Would they welcome him? Or would they see him as competition? The path eventually led to a rocky outcrop overlooking a vast expanse of jungle. From this vantage point, Alex could see smoke rising in the distance, thin wisps curling lazily into the sky. Fire. Someone had built a fire. His pulse quickened. This was a chance to find answers, maybe even allies. But as he stared at the smoke, a shadow of doubt crept into his mind. What if this wasn't another survivor? What if it was something else entirely? Something dangerous? Despite his fears, Alex knew he couldn't ignore the possibility of help. Gathering his courage, he adjusted the strap of his makeshift bag and began making his way toward the source of the smoke. Every step felt heavier now, weighed down by uncertainty. Yet deep down, couldn't shake the feeling that whatever awaited him at the end of this journey would change everything. Meanwhile, Rachel sat in front of her monitors, replaying footage of Alex discovering the markings and heading toward the smoke. Her expression softened, a mix of admiration and worry etched on her face. He's getting closer, she whispered, half to herself. Daniel entered the room again, this time with a folder in hand. Closer to what? He asked, glancing at the screen. To whoever or whatever is out there, Rachel replied. And honestly, I'm not sure which would be worse for him, Daniel smirked. Either way, it'll give us more data. It's all that matters. Rachel didn't respond. She simply turned back to the monitors, her thoughts heavy with guilt and dread. Whatever happened next, she knew Alex was walking into uncharted territory. She couldn't shake the feeling that she was partly responsible for putting him there. Document. Part 3 of the story, Alex moved cautiously through the jungle, his eyes fixed on the thin column of smoke rising in the distance. Every step felt deliberate, weighed down by a mix of hope and fear. He had been alone for what felt like an eternity. And the thought of finding another person or Even just evidence of human life was both thrilling and terrifying. What if they weren't friendly? What if they saw him as a threat? But Alex pushed those thoughts aside. He needed answers, and this was his best chance to get them. The closer he got to the source of the smoke, the more signs of activity he noticed. Broken branches, flattened grass, and faint footprints in the dirt suggested that someone had passed through recently. The trail was clear enough for him to follow without much difficulty, though he stayed alert, scanning the trees for any sign of danger. The jungle was eerily quiet now, as if holding its breath, waiting for something to happen. Finally, Alex reached the edge of a small clearing. In the center stood a crude shelter made of sticks and leaves, with a smoldering fire pit nearby. The smoke curled lazily into the sky, carried by a gentle breeze. At first glance, the area seemed deserted. But then, a figure emerged from behind the shelter, a woman with short dark hair and sharp calculating eyes. She held a spear fashioned from a long branch tipped with a sharpened stone, and her posture was tense, ready for anything. "Who are you?" she demanded, her voice firm but not unkind. "And why are you following my trail?" Alex raised his hands slowly, showing he meant no harm. "My name's Alex," he said, his voice steady, despite the adrenaline coursing through him. "Didn't mean to intrude. I saw the smoke and thought maybe you could help me." The woman studied him for a moment, her grip tightening slightly on the spear. "Help you with what?" she asked, her tone skeptical. "You're one of them, aren't you? One of the others who were dropped here?" Alex nodded, taken aback by how quickly she had figured it out. "Yeah, I am. Look, I'm not here to cause trouble. Just, I need to understand what's going on. Why we're here. Do you know anything about that?" The woman hesitated, her expression softening. Just a fraction. "My name's Emily," she said finally, lowering the spear slightly. "And yeah, I've been here for a while. Longer than you, probably. But I don't have all the answers. All I know is that we're being tested or hunted. Maybe both." Alex stepped closer, careful not to make any sudden movements. Tested? By who and why? Emily let out a bitter laugh. "You really think I know? Whoever's behind this doesn't care about us? They're watching, though. Always watching." She gestured vaguely toward the sky, her eyes narrowing. "Cameras, drones, whatever. We're lab rats, Alex. Nothing more." Words sent a chill down Alex's spine, but they also confirmed what he'd already suspected. This wasn't some random survival challenge, it was something far darker. Still, there was something reassuring about talking to another person. For the first time since waking up in this alien jungle, Alex didn't feel completely alone. Back at the observation facility, Rachel Dawson leaned forward in her chair, her eyes glued to the monitors. She watched as Alex and Emily exchanged words, their body language shifting from wary to cautious cooperation. It was fascinating and unsettling to see two strangers come together in such a hostile environment. "They're forming an alliance," Daniel Brooks remarked, standing beside her with a clipboard in hand. "Interesting. Humans always gravitate toward teamwork when faced with overwhelming odds." Rachel shot him a glare. "Don't sound so clinical about it. These are people, Daniel. Real people, not data points." Daniel shrugged, unfazed. "Of course they're real people. That's why they're valuable. Their interactions give us insight into how humans adapt under extreme conditions. You should appreciate that Chur, the one who designed the behavioral metrics." Rachel sighed, rubbing her temples. "I designed them to study resilience, not to justify dropping people into a death trap. There's a line here, Daniel. Big one, and we've crossed it." Daniel set the clipboard down and turned to face her. "We didn't cross it. Humanity did, or rather, humanity will. If we don't prepare for what's coming, we'll be wiped out before we even know it. This isn't just about us, it's about the future." Rachel wanted to argue, to tell him that sacrificing innocent lives wasn't the answer. But deep down, she knew he wouldn't listen. Instead, she focused on the screen again, where Alex and Emily were now sitting near the fire, sharing bits of food scavenged from the jungle. They looked exhausted, but determined, their bond growing stronger with each passing minute. As night fell, Alex and Emily took turns keeping watch while the other rested. The jungle came alive with sounds, chirps, growls, and distant roars that echoed through the trees. Neither of them slept deeply, their senses attuned to every noise. "So?" Alex began during his shift, glancing over at Emily, who was leaning against the makeshift shelter. "How long have you been out here?" Emily tilted her head back, staring up at the stars visible through gaps in the canopy. "Months, I think. Time gets weird out here. At first, I thought I could find a way out, but let's just say I stopped looking after a while." Alex frowned. "Why? Don't you want to escape?" Emily gave him a wry smile. "Oh, I want to escape. But I've learned something important out here, Alex. This place isn't just a jungle. It's a maze, a trap. Everything's designed to keep us moving, keep us scared. Even if you find a way out, there's no guarantee you'll survive what comes next." Her words sent a fresh wave of unease through Alex. "What do you mean, what comes next?" Emily hesitated, her gaze flickering toward the shadows beyond the firelight. "There are things out here worse than the predators, things I haven't seen yet, but I can feel them. Watching, waiting. Whatever brought us here has plans for us. Alex, plans we might not walk away from." Before Alex could respond, a loud rustling erupted from the bushes nearby. Both of them sprang to their feet, grabbing their weapons. Out of the darkness charged a pack of smaller wolf-like creatures with glowing green eyes and rows of razor-sharp teeth. They snarled and snapped, circling the pair with predatory intent. "Stay close," Emily shouted, gripping her spear tightly. "Aim for their throats," Alex nodded, clutching his branch-turned club. The first creature lunged at him, jaws snapping. Wildly, he swung the club with all his strength, striking it squarely on the side of its head. The impact stunned it, giving him just enough time to bash it again, silencing it for good. Meanwhile, Emily fought off two more attackers, her spear piercing the chest of one while she kicked the other away. Blood splattered the ground as the remaining creatures hesitated, their glowing eyes darting between the humans. Sensing weakness, Alex and Emily pressed their advantage, driving them back until the pack retreated into the jungle, disappearing into the shadows. Breathing heavily, Alex looked at Emily, who was wiping blood off her spear with a handful of leaves. "You were right," he said, his voice trembling. "This place is full of death." Emily nodded grimly. "And we're still alive, for now." At the facility, Rachel watched the entire encounter unfold on the monitors, her heart pounding. She couldn't help but admire their teamwork there. Ability to fight together despite barely knowing each other. But admiration wasn't enough to ease her guilt. These were people fighting for their lives because of decisions she had helped make. She glanced at Daniel, was jotting notes on his clipboard. "They're survivors," he said matter-of-factly. "Exactly what we hoped to find." Rachel clenched her fists, her voice low but firm. "Survivors, yes, but at what cost?" Daniel didn't answer, didn't need to. The truth was written all over the screens. The cost was human lives, torn apart and tested like pieces of machinery. And as Rachel returned her gaze to the monitors, she realized something else. The experiment wasn't just testing Alex and Emily. It was testing her too, forcing her to decide how far she was willing to go and whether she had the courage to stop it. Document. Part 4 of the story the next morning. Alex and Emily set out early, their bodies sore from the previous night's battle, but their spirits stronger than ever. They had survived another attack, and that alone gave them a sense of accomplishment. As they walked, Emily explained more about the jungle and its dangers, sharing what she had learned during her months alone. "There are patterns," she said, pointing to the ground. "See these tracks? They belong to those wolf-like creatures. They hunt in packs, usually at night. But if you pay attention, you can avoid them." Alex nodded, studying the prints carefully. He was beginning to understand that survival here wasn't just about strength, it was about knowledge, patience, and strategy. "What about the bigger ones?" he asked. "The ones I saw when I first got here." Emily's expression darkened. "Those are apex predators. They don't hunt in groups, but they're smarter, faster, stronger. You don't want to cross paths with them unless you absolutely have to." As they continued walking, Alex noticed something new: more markings, carved into the trees similar to the ones he'd seen earlier, but arranged differently. These weren't random scratches. They formed intricate patterns, almost like symbols. "Do you know what these mean?" he asked, running his fingers over the grooves in the bark. Emily shook her head. "I've seen them before, but I don't know what they mean. They're everywhere in this part of the jungle. Some people think they're warnings. Others say they're signs left by whoever built that thing." "That thing," Alex repeated, his curiosity piqued. Emily hesitated, glancing around as if afraid someone or something might be listening. "There's a structure deeper in the jungle. It's a hive, or maybe a nest. It's huge, and it's guarded by those insectoid creatures." "I've only seen it from a distance, but it feels wrong, Alex. Like it doesn't belong here." Alex frowned. "You think it's alien?" "I don't know," Emily admitted, "but it's not natural, and whatever's inside, it's important. Maybe even dangerous." Back at the observation facility, Rachel Dawson sat hunched over her desk, reviewing footage of Alex and Emily's journey. The cameras captured every detail: their conversations, their movements, even the subtle changes in their expressions. She couldn't shake the feeling that they were onto something big, something the collective hadn't anticipated. "They're heading toward the hive," Daniel Brooks remarked, standing behind her. His voice was calm, almost clinical as always. "This should be interesting." Rachel turned to face him, her eyes narrowed. "Interesting? That place is a death trap. If they go in there, they might not come out alive." Daniel shrugged. "Then we'll learn from their mistakes. That's the point of all this, isn't it? To push boundaries, test limits, and gather data." Rachel clenched her fists, frustration bubbling beneath the surface. "Data won't bring them back, Daniel. These are real people with real lives. Does that mean nothing to you?" For once, Daniel's expression softened, though only slightly. "Of course it means something. But we're doing this for a reason, Rachel. Humanity is facing threats we can't even comprehend yet. If we don't adapt, we'll be wiped out. This experiment, this sacrifice is necessary." Necessary. The word echoed in Rachel's mind, heavy and cold. To convince herself that the ends justified the means, but deep down, she knew better. Sacrificing innocent lives wasn't progress, it was cruelty, and she couldn't stand by and let it continue. By late afternoon, Alex and Emily reached the edge of a vast clearing. In the center stood the HFY, massive, sprawling structure made of dark, glossy material that shimmered faintly in the sunlight. Its surface was covered in strange ridges and protrusions, giving it an organic, almost living appearance. Surrounding it were dozens of insectoid creatures, their segmented bodies gleaming like polished metal. They moved with eerie precision, patrolling the area in perfect synchronization. "This is it," Emily whispered, ducking behind a fallen tree trunk. The hive. Alex stared at it, his heart pounding. It was unlike anything he'd ever seen: alien, unnatural, and undeniably dangerous. But there was something else about it too, something that drew him in despite the risks. "What's inside?" he asked, his voice barely audible. Emily shook her head. "No one knows. Those things guard it fiercely. Anyone who gets too close, well, let's just say they don't come back." Alex glanced at her, then back at the hive. "We need to find out." "Are you crazy?" Emily hissed. "We're not ready for that. Even if we could get past those creatures, there's no telling what's waiting inside." "I know it's risky," Alex said, his tone firm. "But think about it. Whoever put us here, they want us to figure this out. They leave clues everywhere. Those markings, the trails, the smoke signals. They're leading us here for a reason." Emily hesitated, torn between caution and curiosity. Finally, she sighed. "Fine, but if we're doing this, we do it smart. No rushing in blind." That night, they devised a plan. Using materials scavenged from the jungle, they crafted crude tools and distractions. Alex suggested using fire to draw the insectoids away from the entrance, while Emily prepared makeshift weapons in case things went wrong. When everything was ready, they rested briefly, conserving their energy for the task ahead. At dawn, they approached the hive cautiously, sticking to the shadows as much as possible. The insectoids were still active, their glowing eyes scanning the area constantly. Alex took a deep breath, then lit a bundle of dry leaves on fire and tossed it into the underbrush nearby. The flames crackled loudly, catching the attention of several creatures. One by one, they scurried toward the noise, leaving the entrance partially unguarded. "Now," Melly whispered, grabbing Alex's arm and pulling him forward. They sprinted toward the hive, ducking low to avoid detection. The air smelled strange here, metallic and sharp, making Alex's skin tingle. As they reached the entrance, Emily paused, her spear raised defensively. "Stay alert," she murmured. "This is where it gets tricky." Inside, the hive was dimly lit, its walls pulsating faintly, as if alive. Strange sounds echoed through. The corridors, clicks, hums, and low vibrations that seemed to resonate in their chests. The floor was slick and uneven, forcing them to move slowly to avoid slipping. Every step felt heavier, as if the hive itself was resisting their presence. They soon came across a chamber filled with glowing pods suspended from the ceiling. Inside, each pod was something indistinct, shifting and writhing like liquid. Alex reached out to touch one, but Emily grabbed his hand, shaking her head. "Don't. We don't know what they are." Before they could explore further, a loud buzzing sound filled the air. The insectoids had returned, swarming into the chamber with terrifying speed. Alex and Emily backed away, their weapons at the ready. But just as the creatures closed in, Alex spotted something on the far side of the Roomba device, emitting a low-frequency hum, embedded in the wall. Without thinking, he lunged for it, yanking it free with a grunt of effort. The moment he did, the buzzing stopped. The insectoids froze, their glowing eyes dimming slightly as if confused. Seizing the opportunity, Alex and Emily bolted for the exit, clutching the device tightly. Back at the facility, Rachel watched the entire sequence unfold on the monitors, her hands clasped tightly over her mouth. She couldn't believe what she was seeing. Not only had Alex and Emily infiltrated the hive, but they had also retrieved something potentially groundbreaking. Whatever that device was, it clearly held immense power and danger. "They've done it," Daniel said, his voice tinged with, they've taken the first step toward understanding the technology." Rachel turned to him, her eyes blazing. "At what cost? You realize how close they came to dying in there?" Daniel met her gaze, his expression unreadable. "Progress always comes at a price, Rachel. The question is, are you willing to pay it?" Rachel didn't answer. She simply stared at the screen, watching as Alex and Emily disappeared into the jungle, the device clutched protectively in Alex's arms. For the first time, she allowed herself to hope not for the collective, but for the two survivors fighting against impossible odds. Whatever happened next, she knew one thing for certain. The rules of the game had changed. Document. Part 5 of the story. Alex and Emily stumbled through the jungle, their breaths ragged, and their legs burning from the frantic sprint away from the hive. The device Alex had taken pulsed faintly in his hands, its low hum vibrating. Against his skin, felt strange, almost alive, and every instinct told him to drop it and run. But he didn't. He couldn't. Whatever this thing was, it was important. Too important to leave behind. They finally stopped near a cluster of rocks, collapsing onto the damp earth to catch their breath. Emily wiped sweat from her forehead with the back of her hand, her eyes darting around nervously. "Close," she muttered, glancing over her shoulder as if expecting the insectoids to burst out of the trees at any moment. Alex nodded, still holding the device tightly. "Yeah, but we made it, and we got this." Emily frowned, leaning closer to examine the object. "What do you think it is?" "I don't know," Alex admitted, "but it's not normal. It feels different, like it doesn't belong here or anywhere." Emily reached out hesitantly, brushing her fingers against the smooth surface. A sharp jolt ran through her arm, making her yank her hand back with a gasp. "Ouch, what the hell was that?" Alex raised an eyebrow. "You okay?" "Yeah, I'm fine," Emily said, shaking her hand to ease the tingling sensation. "But that thing, it shocked me. Or maybe it scanned me. I don't know. Either way, we need to figure out what it does before we use it again." Back at the facility, Rachel Dawson stared at the monitors, her mind racing. She had seen everything: the daring raid on the hive, the retrieval of the mysterious device, and the narrow escape from the insectoids. Her heart pounded as she replayed the footage, focusing on the device itself. Its design was unlike anything she'd ever encountered. A blend of organic and mechanical elements that defied logic. "They've done the impossible," Daniel Brooks said, standing beside her. His tone was calm, but there was a flicker of excitement in his eyes. "If we can analyze that device, we might unlock secrets beyond our wildest dreams." Rachel turned to face him, her expression grim. "Or unleash something we can't control." "Have you forgotten what happened last time we tampered with alien technology?" "People died, Daniel. Entire teams were lost." Daniel waved a dismissive hand. "That was different. We didn't understand the risks then. Now we do. Besides, Alex and Emily are already handling it. All we need to do is guide them." "Guide them," Rachel snapped, her voice rising. "You mean manipulate them? They're not pawns in your game, Daniel. They're people, real people who are risking their lives because of us." Daniel sighed, pinching the bridge of his nose. "I get it, Rachel. You feel guilty. But guilt won't save humanity. This experiment isn't just about survival. It's about evolution. If Alex and Emily succeed, they'll pave the way for the next stage of human development. Isn't that worth the risk?" Rachel clenched her fists, her jaw tight. She wanted to argue, to scream, to demand that they shut down the entire operation, but she knew it wouldn't change anything. The collective had made its decision long before today. Her only choice now was whether to stand by and watch her try to intervene. As night fell, Alex and Emily set up camp in a shallow cave hidden behind a waterfall. The constant rush of water masked their presence, providing a rare sense of security. They sat close to the fire, the device resting between them like an unspoken challenge. "So what's the plan?" Emily asked, poking at the flames with a stick. "We can't just carry this thing around forever." "No," Alex replied, staring at the pulsing glow of the device. "But we also can't ignore it. Whatever it is, it's powerful. Maybe even dangerous. If we figure out how it works, we might be able to use it against whoever put us here." Emily tilted her head, studying him carefully. "You really think that's possible? That we can fight back?" Alex hesitated, uncertainty clouding his features. "I don't know. But I do know one thing: we can't keep running forever. Sooner or later, we'll have to face whatever's waiting for us. And when that happens, I want to be ready." Emily nodded slowly, though doubt lingered in her eyes. "All right, but let's take it slow. We don't know what this thing is capable of or what it might do to us." Over the next few days, Alex and Emily experimented cautiously with the device, testing its limits without fully activating it. They discovered that it responded to touch, emitting stronger vibrations when held firmly. Small lights embedded in its surface blinked in patterns that seemed almost deliberate, like a language waiting to be deciphered. One evening, as they sat by the fire, Alex noticed something strange. His vision blurred slightly, and colors appeared. Sharper, more vivid. At first, he thought it was exhaustion playing tricks on him. But then Emily spoke, her voice laced with concern. "Alex, are you okay? Your eyes there glowing." "What?" Alex touched his face instinctively, feeling no difference. But when he caught a glimpse of his reflection in a nearby puddle, he froze. His irises were glowing faintly, matching the hue of the device's lights. "It's affecting you," Emily whispered, her voice trembling. "The device, it's changing you." Alex stood abruptly, panic rising in his chest. "Changing me how? What does that even mean?" Emily shook, her head clearly as confused as he was. "I don't know, but it's not natural. Whatever's happening, it's connected to that thing." Alex stared at the device, his mind racing. Fear warred with curiosity inside him. On one hand, he wanted to throw it into the nearest river and forget it existed. On the other, he couldn't shake the feeling that this change, whatever it was, might be the key to surviving this nightmare. At the facility, Rachel watched the transformation unfold on the monitors, her stomach twisting with dread. She had seen enough experiments gone wrong to recognize the signs. The device wasn't just a tool. It was altering Alex on a fundamental level. "His vitals are spiking," Daniel noted. reviewing the data streaming across his tablet. Heart rate, brain activity, it's all off the charts. Looks like the device is rewriting his biology. Rachel shot him a horrified look. Rewriting? Are you saying it's mutating him? Daniel nodded, unfazed. Exactly. Think about it, Rachel. If we can harness this process, we could accelerate human evolution. Imagine soldiers with enhanced strength, scientists with heightened intelligence, explorers capable of surviving. In hostile environments, the possibilities are endless. Rachel felt sick. And what happens when it goes wrong? Someone becomes something they're not supposed to be. Daniel shrugged. Every breakthrough comes with risks, sacrifices. Must be made sacrifices? Rachel repeated, her voice icy. That's easy for you to say. You're not the one out there watching yourself turn into whatever Alex is becoming. Daniel placed a hand on her shoulder, his tone softening slightly. No, this is hard for you. But remember why we started this project. Humanity is facing threats it can't comprehend. If we don't adapt, we'll be wiped out. Alex's transformation is a step forward, a necessary one. Rachel pulled away, her eyes blazing. No, this isn't adaptation. This is experimentation. And it's wrong. Without another word, she stormed out of the room, leaving Daniel alone with the screens. As she walked down the sterile hallway, her mind raced. She couldn't let this continue not like this. It's not at the cost of innocent lives. For the first time since joining the collective, Rachel decided to act. Whatever happened next, she would make sure Alex and Emily weren't alone in this fight. Meanwhile, deep in the jungle, Alex stared at his hands, now faintly illuminated by the same glow emanating from the device. He flexed his fingers, feeling a strange surge of energy coursing through his veins. Strength, speed, clarity. It was intoxicating and terrifying. We need answers, Emily said softly, breaking the silence. About the device, about this place, about everything. Because if we don't find them soon, we might not survive much longer. Alex nodded, determination hardening his features. Then, let's find them. Together. And with that, they packed up their makeshift camp and set off once again, the glowing device clutched securely in Alex's grip. Neither of them knew where the path would lead or what price they would pay for the truth. But one thing was certain. Nothing would ever be the same again. Document Part 6 of the story. The jungle seemed quieter than usual as Alex and Emily trudged through the dense undergrowth. The hum of the device in Alex's hands had grown fainter, almost as if it were conserving its energy or waiting. Every now and then, Alex would pause to examine his reflection in a puddle or a shiny surface, his glowing eyes staring back at him like twin moons. The changes weren't just physical. He felt sharper, faster, more alert. But with each passing hour, the weight of uncertainty grew heavier. Emily walked beside him, her spear gripped tightly in one hand. She kept glancing at Alex, her expression a mix of awe and unease. You're different, she said finally, breaking the silence. I don't just mean your eyes. You move differently, react faster. It's like you're not entirely human anymore. Alex didn't respond right away. He knew what she meant. He could feel it too. Senses were heightened, his reflexes impossibly quick. Even the jungle around him seemed clearer, more defined. But there was also a cost. Strange pressure in his chest, a constant buzzing. In his mind, like the device was whispering secrets only he could hear. I don't know what's happening to me, he admitted, his voice low, but I can't stop it. And honestly, I'm not sure I want to. Emily frowned. Be careful, Alex. Power, like that tit, comes with strings attached. Whoever made this thing, they didn't give it to us out of kindness. There's always a price. Alex nodded, though deep down, he wasn't convinced. The changes scared him, yes, but they also gave him hope. If he could survive this place, if he could adapt maybe, he stood a chance against whatever forces had put him here. Back at the facility, Rachel Dawson sat alone in her office, surrounded by files and data streams. Her desk was cluttered with notes, diagrams, and screenshots of Alex's transformation. She had spent hours poring over the information, searching for answers. But the more she learned, the worse it got. They're accelerating his evolution. She muttered to herself, tapping a pen against the edge of her desk. But why? What's the endgame? Her thoughts were interrupted by a soft knock on the door. Daniel Brooks entered without waiting for an invitation, carrying a tablet filled with updates. "Good news," he said, his tone smug. "The device is working exactly as predicted. Alex's genetic markers are shifting rapidly. In a few days, he'll be unrecognizable." Rachel shot him a glare. "Unrecognizable? You mean he'll be a monster?" Daniel shrugged, unfazed. "A monster or a marvelit depends on how you look at it. Either way, we're witnessing the next step in human evolution. This is groundbreaking, Rachel. It's history in the making." Rachel clenched her fists, her patience wearing thin. "History? Is that what you call it? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like exploitation. You're using him as a guinea pig, Daniel. A disposable experiment." Daniel leaned forward, his expression hardening. "Don't pretend you didn't sign up for this. We all did. You designed the protocols, remember? You approved the parameters. So don't act like you're some innocent bystander now." Rachel flinched, guilt stabbing at her chest. He was right. She had played a role in this. "But that didn't make it okay." "Maybe I did," she said quietly. "But that doesn't mean I have to stand by and watch it destroy someone. Alex isn't just a test subject. He's a person. And so is Emily." Daniel sighed, shaking his head. "Sentimentality won't save humanity, Rachel. If we want to survive, we need to evolve. And evolution requires sacrifice." Rachel stared at him, her resolve hardening. "Not like this. Not at the cost of their lives." Without another word, she turned back to her computer and began typing furiously. She had access to classified files that contained everything. The collective had done every decision they'd made. If she could get this information out, expose the truth to the world, maybe she could stop them. Maybe she could save Alex and Emily before it was too late. By midday, Alex and Emily reached a wide river cutting through the jungle. The water flowed swiftly, its surface shimmering under the sunlight. On the far bank, the trees thinned out, revealing a rocky expanse that stretched toward the horizon. Beyond it, God, Alex could see the faint outline of mountains rising in the distance. "This might be our best chance to cross," Emily said, scanning the area for signs of danger. "If we follow the river upstream, we might find a narrower section." Alex nodded, adjusting the strap of his makeshift bag. "Let's keep moving. The sooner we're across, the better." As they followed the riverbank, Alex noticed something unusual. A series of metallic objects half buried in the mud near the water's edge. They looked like pieces of machinery, corroded and overgrown with moss. He knelt to examine them, brushing away dirt to reveal intricate patterns etched into the metal. "What are these?" Emily asked, crouching beside him. "I don't know," Alex replied, his brow furrowed. "But they're not natural. Someone or something put them here." Emily frowned. More alien tech. "Just what we needed before they could investigate further." A loud splash echoed from the river. Both of them spun around, weapons raised, as a massive shape broke the surface of the water. It was a creature unlike anything they'd seen before, serpentine beast with scales that gleamed like polished steel. Its eyes glowed a deep red, and rows of jagged teeth lined its gaping maw. "Get back," Alex shouted, grabbing Emily's arm and pulling her away from the water. The creature lunged forward, snapping its jaws mere inches from their feet. They stumbled backward, slipping on the muddy bank as the beast thrashed violently. "We can't fight that thing," Emily yelled, scrambling to her feet. "We need to run." Alex hesitated, glancing at the device in his hands. The groaned louder, almost resonating with the creature's movements. An idea sparked in his mind. "No," he said firmly. "We can use this." Emily stared at him, incredulous. "Are you insane? That thing will tear us apart." "Trust me," Alex said, his voice steady despite the fear coursing through him. He stepped closer to the edge of the river, holding the device high. The creature paused, its glowing eyes fixed on the object. For a moment, everything was still. Then, with a deafening roar, the beast surged forward. Alex braced himself, focusing. All his energy on the device. The hum intensified, vibrating through his entire body. Suddenly, a burst of light erupted from the device, enveloping the creature in a blinding glow. The beast let out a final, ear-splitting screech before collapsing into the water. Motionless, Alex staggered back, his knees buckling beneath him. Emily rushed to his side, helping him to his feet. What just happened? Her voice trembling. I don't know, Alex admitted, his breathing ragged. But it worked. Emily shook her head, her expression a mix of relief and disbelief. That thing saved us. Or maybe it killed us. I don't even know anymore. Alex didn't respond. He simply stared at the device, its glow fading slowly. Whatever it was, it had changed him, and now it had saved his life. But at what cost? At the facility, Rachel watched the entire encounter unfold on the monitors, her heart pounding. She had never seen anything like it. The device's power was beyond comprehension. And yet, it wasn't just a tool. It was alive, intelligent, and clearly tied to Alex's transformation. This changes everything, she whispered, her fingers hovering over the keyboard. She had been planning to leak the files, but now she realized she needed more. Evidence. Proof that the collective was playing God with human lives. She opened a secure server and began downloading classified footage of Alex and Emily's journey, along with detailed reports of the experiment. The process was slow, agonizingly so, but she couldn't afford to rush. One wrong move, and they'd catch her. As the files transferred, Rachel allowed herself a moment of hope. If she could get this information out, expose the truth to the world, maybe she could stop the collective. Maybe she could save Alex and Emily and everyone else caught in their web. But as the download bar inched closer to completion, a shadow fell across her desk. Rachel froze, her blood running cold. Slowly, she turned to see Daniel standing in the doorway, his arms crossed and his expression unreadable. You really think you can stop us? He asked, his voice calm but laced with menace. Rachel swallowed. Hard, her hands trembling. I have to try. Daniel stepped closer, his gaze piercing. Then you'll fail. 'Cause no matter what you do, Rachel, the future belongs to the collective. And nothing, not you, not Alex, not anyone, can change that. Rachel clenched her fists, defiance burning in her chest. We'll see about that. For the first time in months, she felt alive. Scared, yes, but ready to fight, whatever happened. Next, she knew one thing for certain. The truth was worth fighting for. She wouldn't stop until the world knew it. Document Part 7 of the story. The sun was setting over the jungle, casting long shadows across the rocky expanse where Alex and Emily had finally crossed the river. The air was thick with humidity, and the distant calls of predators echoed through the trees. Despite the danger lurking all around them, they allowed themselves a brief moment to rest. Alex sat on a flat rock, staring at the device in his hands. Its glow had dimmed again. It's almost as if it were conserving energy, or waiting for something. Emily paced nearby, her spear gripped tightly. Her movements were restless, her mind clearly racing. That thing saved us, she said finally, breaking the silence. But I don't trust it, not completely. Alex nodded, though his expression was thoughtful rather than fearful. I know what you mean. But we wouldn't have made it this far without it. Maybe it's not just a weapon. Maybe it's a key to understanding why we're here. Okay. Emily stopped pacing and turned to face him, her eyes narrowing. A key? Or a trap? You heard what those markings said back at the hive warnings? Someone wanted us to stay away from that place. And now we've got one of its secrets in our hands. Alex frowned, glancing down at the device. He couldn't argue with her logic, but deep down, he felt drawn to it. It wasn't just a tool. It was part of him now. The changes it had brought, the heightened senses, the glowing eyes, they weren't fading. If anything, they were growing. Stronger? We can't ignore it, he said firmly. Whatever this thing is, it's connected to everything. to the jungle, to the predators, to us. If we want answers, we need to keep moving. Emily sighed, shaking her head. Fine, but let's be smart about it. Can't just charge into the next big mystery without a plan. Alex agreed, and after a few more minutes of rest, they gathered their supplies and set off again. Rocky terrain gave way to a dense forest, the trees towering above them like silent sentinels. Every step felt heavier now, not because of exhaustion, but because of the weight of what lay ahead. Back at the facility, Rachel Dawson worked quickly, her fingers flying across the keyboard as she finalized the transfer of classified files. The download bar on her screen crept closer to completion, each second feeling like an eternity. She knew she was running out of time. Daniel's warning still echoed in her mind, but she refused to let fear stop her. This was bigger than her, bigger than the collective. Humanity deserved to know the truth. Her heart skipped a beat when she heard footsteps approaching from the hallway. She froze, her breath catching in her throat. The door to her office creaked open slowly, revealing 2 security guards standing behind Daniel. Their expressions were cold, professional, and utterly devoid of emotion. "You didn't think we'd let you get away with this, did you?" Daniel asked, stepping inside. His tone was calm, almost amused, but there was a dangerous edge to it. Rachel stood up slowly, her hands trembling, but her voice steady. "You can't stop me, Daniel. Even if you delete these files, the truth will come out. People are watching. They'll find out what you've done." Daniel smirked, shaking his head. "Oh, Rachel, always so dramatic. Do you really think anyone cares about a couple of lab rats? This is about survival, not theirs, but ours. Humanity's future depends on experiments like this. Sacrifices must be made." Rachel clenched her fists, anger burning in her chest. Sacrifices? Is that what you call it? Dropping innocent people into death traps, turning them into monsters all, for some twisted idea of progress. Daniel's smile faded, replaced by a cold, calculating stare. "Progress isn't pretty, Rachel, but it's necessary. Now hand over the files. Don't make this harder than it has to be." Rachel hesitated, her mind racing. She could fight back, try to stall them until the download finished, but what then? Even if she managed to escape, they'd hunt her down. There was no winning this fight. Unless, with a sudden burst of determination, Rachel reached for her phone, which was connected to the facility's mainframe, before anyone could stop her. She activated a fail-safe protocol, a hidden subroutine she had coded months ago, designed to shut down the entire operation. Alarms blared instantly, red lights flashing throughout the building. "What did you do?" Daniel shouted, lunging toward her. Rachel stepped back, holding her ground. "I burned it all. Every file, every recording, every trace of this project, it's gone. You'll never use Alex or Emily again." Daniel's face twisted with fury, but before he could respond, the facility plunged into chaos. Lights flickered, screens went dark, and the hum of machinery faded into silence. The guards hesitated, unsure what to do next. "This isn't over," Daniel growled, pointing a finger at Rachel. "You'll pay for this." Rachel didn't respond. She simply grabbed the portable drive containing the leaked files and bolted out of the room, disappearing into the confusion. For the first time in months, she felt alive and free. Meanwhile, Alex and Emily stumbled upon another clearing, this one dominated by a massive stone structure rising from the ground, like a forgotten monument. Its surface was covered in carvings similar to the ones they'd seen earlier, but these were larger, more intricate. Symbols spiraled around the base, forming patterns that seemed to pulse faintly in the moonlight. "What is this place?" Alex whispered, his voice filled with awe. "I don't know," Emily replied, her spear raised defensively, "but it feels wrong. Like it shouldn't exist." As they approached cautiously, Alex noticed something embedded in the center of the structure, a circular indentation that matched the shape of the device. Without hesitation, he stepped forward and placed the object into the slot. A low rumble filled the air as the ground beneath them began to tremble. "Alex, what did you do?" Emily asked, panic creeping into her voice. "I don't know," Alex shouted back, stumbling backward as the carvings on the structure began to glow. Bright beams of light shot upward, piercing the night sky and illuminating the surrounding jungle. Suddenly, the air grew heavy, charged with electricity. A loud, mechanical whirring echoed from within the structure, followed by the sound of grinding stone. Slowly, a hidden doorway slid open, revealing a dark passageway leading underground. "We need to check it out," Alex said, his voice firm despite the fear in his eyes. Emily stared at him, incredulous. "Are you serious? After everything we've been through, you want to walk straight into another death trap?" Alex didn't answer right away. Instead, he looked down at his hands, at the faint glow still emanating from his skin. "I don't think we have a choice," he said quietly. "This place, it's calling to me. To us. Whatever's inside, it's part of the reason we're here." Emily hesitated, torn between caution and curiosity. Finally, she sighed. "All right, but if this goes sideways, I'm blaming you." Together, they stepped into the passageway, the beam of light from Alex's makeshift torch casting eerie shadows on the walls. The air was cool and damp, carrying a metallic Thames that made their skin tingle. Strange symbols lined the corridor, glowing faintly as they passed, as if reacting to their presence. After several minutes of walking, they emerged into a vast chamber filled with glowing pods, suspended from the ceiling. Inside each pod was a humanoid figure, motionless but unmistakably alive. Their bodies shimmered faintly, their features blurred as if they existed somewhere between reality and dream. What are they?" Emily whispered, her voice trembling. "I think they're like me," Alex said softly, his glowing eyes reflecting the light from the pods. "They're evolving, changing, becoming something new." Emily shook her head, backing away slightly. "This is insane. These aren't people anymore. They're experiments, monsters." "No," Alex said firmly, stepping closer to one of the pods. "They're survivors, just like us. Whoever put us here, they wanted to see how far we could go, how much we could adapt, and maybe they wanted us to become something greater." Molly stared at him, her expression a mix of fear and admiration. "You really believe that, don't you?" Alex nodded. "Yeah, I do. Because if we don't evolve, if we don't change, we won't survive. This jungle, these creatures, they're testing us, pushing us to our limits, and I think we're passing." Before Emily could respond, a loud crash echoed through the chamber. Both of them spun around, weapons raised, as a massive figure emerged from the shadows. It was unlike any predator they'd faced before, towering, biomechanical hybrid, with gleaming metal limbs and glowing red eyes. Its presence filled the room, radiating power and menace. "You ready for this?" Emily asked, her voice steady. Despite the fear in her eyes, Alex tightened his grip on the device, its hum growing louder in response. "Yeah, let's finish this." And with that, they charged forward, ready to face whatever came next.
At
Whatever price they would have to pay.